There was a scenario under which Marcus Freeman would win it all from Notre Dame, and Chicago Bears would be knocking on his door and saying, "How would you like to leave Notre Dame and take the short ride from South Bend and move your family to Chicago?" But that wasn't happening, and the reason why has nothing to do with the fact that Notre Dame lost. The move was made by the Bears before kickoff last night. Ben Johnson is the new head coach of the Chicago Bears. And this is exactly the guy the Bears fans that I know wanted, because he knows the division, having been the offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions, who, by the way, did not lose in division this year, perfect in division, and led the NFL in scoring offense, came up with the most points per game in a season in Lions history. 33.2 points per game. Most points per game by any NFL team since the 2019 Ravens of Lamar Jackson's first MVP season. They scored 20 or more points in 16 of their 17 games. That's tied for most in the National Football League. The only game under 20 was their Week 2 loss to Tampa. They scored more than 40 in 6 games this year. They also ranked top 5 in total yards per game. Jared Goff had one of the best years of his career. And I'm not just saying this year was one of his best years performance. I'm talking about body of work. Jared Goff, when he was sent to Detroit, as we all know, came with first-round draft choices as well. Normally you get the draft choices in return for a first overall draft pick. Jared Goff's career redeemed in Detroit. He led the NFL in passing yards. Goff, since Ben Johnson took over in 2022 as the offensive coordinator, elevated from the Lions tight end coach position by the tight end head coach who took over and knew Ben Johnson from their time together in Miami, where Ben Johnson first joined the Miami Dolphins as an offensive assistant in 2012 and moved up as an assistant quarterbacks coach, an assistant wide receiver coach, then became the wide receiver coach of the Dolphins before the Lions hired him as a quality control coach in 2019. He first started coaching in Boston College in 2009 and went to the pros after a GA and tight ends coach positions there from 2009 to 2011. And so I just basically point out that this guy is all about offense. And this is exactly the type of guy you want to connect to Caleb Williams and rip the knob off. And that's it. And Ben Johnson, you do for Caleb what you did for Goff. And what Cliff Kingsbury is doing for Jaden Daniels right now, unlock 18. Unlock him. Because there were times where he was locked up this year. Mm-hmm. The issue is, part of the reason why 18 was locked up was a lot of holding on to the football, a lot of lack of protection. There were times when he did play free, and you just wonder, can he play within a construct of an offense? Does he just need to play free and just spitball it out there? How do you find that sweet spot? That's Ben Johnson's job. And it looks like he's bringing Dennis Allen in as the defensive coordinator, which is a real nice move. Plus, you also have a guy who does have some head coaching experience, although I don't know if that's why you're hiring Dennis Allen. You're hiring him to say, you handle the defensive side of the ball. I'm going to handle the offensive side of the ball, and potentially collectively, I don't know. That's the question here. That's the question. How is Ben Johnson going to be as the CEO of a program? How is he going to be as the guy who needs to walk into the defensive side of things and say what's what in the way that Eberflus did not appear to do on the offensive side of the ball? I mean, he was in there every now and then when we were talking to Matt Eberflus. The story that we heard from Stacey Dales and that when we were talking about the Bears leading into the game that we covered against the Jaguars this year, which was the high watermark of the Eberflus era, 4-2, with Caleb Williams going into a bye week, coming off of a 4-touchdown performance on Jacksonville, feeling great about themselves. Then they come off the bye, then comes the Hail Mary, and then yada, yada, yada. But the question was, would he be able to handle the business of everything in Chicago? And we heard that the players there were having issues with Shane Waldron, the offensive coordinator, not having a first 15 scripted. They thought that it would be a really good idea to do such a thing and learn the first 15 as opposed to having some form of a menu and the players not knowing what the menu is going to be in terms of the first 15 plays. And Eberflus is like, great. You talk to Waldron.
I still can't believe that happened.
No, advocate for yourselves. Go for it.
But
you talk to the coach.
But the idea of not having it in the first place.
Well, there are some teams that don't. There's some teams that don't need it. There's menus and things of that nature. But it is rare. It is rare. But to basically not say, I got this, and then pull Shane Waldron in and say, this is the way we're going to do it. Again, the only reason why we're talking about it now is because everything fell apart. And will Ben Johnson be able to know when to call timeouts and throw challenge flags and things of that nature? And what does happen when things go sideways? You never know. But I will say this when it comes to hiring Ben Johnson, that, hiring the young hot coordinator for one side of the ball to fix the one side of the ball, which the Bears need to make sure Caleb Williams works. Because if Caleb Williams doesn't work, that is a major issue. And now we're watching what Jaden Daniels is doing, damn near almost making the Super Bowl, which he can do 6 days from now. And it's entirely possible that he does. That the Bears spinning their wheels on their quarterback would set the franchise back. It's that simple. So I understand making this decision. And this is why, it's sometimes tough to have the CEO head coach, because you do lose a coordinator on one side of the ball, if not both, when the Lions lose their coordinators, as Aaron Glenn is in New York right now talking to the Jets, and Ian Rappaport reporting that Aaron Glenn talking to the Jets, the defensive coordinator of the Lions, is the intention is to not let him out of the building, because the Saints are ready to chat with Aaron Glenn next. They're in the on deck circle if the Jets do not land Aaron Glenn today, former Jet. And we'll talk about that if it happens. But the reason why I bring all this up now is that's the challenge for the Lions moving forward here, is they've got to replace their two coordinators, and Dan Campbell, as the CEO, is going to have to get those hires right. And we'll see, again, the last team that made the Super Bowl and lost both coordinators had a terrible year last year in the Eagles. They didn't get it right. This year they did. Now they might be going back to the Super Bowl. So you got to get these right. That's why I was always saying, maybe you make these hires with the hot coordinator and you stick him on that side of the ball, and you're not going to lose him. Like, if it works with Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams, Ben Johnson's not going to go find a job somewhere else if it's working in Chicago, because he's the head coach. Which is why I'm always saying, you know what? I would not hire a defensive-minded head coach. I want to get my offensive coordinator and the head coach in the same headset with the quarterback and hook them up and let's go. Look at Andy Reid. Look at Sean Payton. How many times have we said that? Like, that's the idea.
That's the idea.
But I have to say, at this point in time, Dan Quinn's kind of blowing that one straight up to hell right now. Or, pardon me, heaven.
He's in the anomaly.
He is blowing it up because he is the CEO head coach, and we will see if Cliff Kingsbury does leave, what it would look like with Jaden Daniels without him. We will see what it might look like even next year if Cliff Kingsbury does get a job. And if somebody wants to wait for him after next Monday, or it might have to be waiting all the way to the end of the Super Bowl in 2 weeks. But I'm mea culpaing on this one. Dan Quinn, a CEO head coach of the defensive side of the ball, has plugged into Jaden Daniels in quite a way that makes me sit here and think, just get the best guy for the job who can handle the pressures, can handle the fourth down calls, can handle the media, can handle the locker room, can handle the players, and you just find the right assistants, and maybe you pay them to stay, and if not, you just find the right ones to come next, and you nail the draft choices and go to work. Dan Quinn is kind of blowing up everything that we've been saying for the last few weeks. And if I had said to you 3, 4, 5 weeks ago, Ben Johnson was going to be the head coach of the Chicago Bears, I'd be like 100% right move. And a number of times that we've had Kurt Warner on and others on when I'm like, who's the best coach for Caleb Williams? Get the best leader of the organization. And it's just like, okay, tell me something I don't know. But it doesn't have to be the hot coordinator. I hope it is for Bears fans. I hope it's exactly because makes sense. Get somebody in the division who knows how to beat the division and who knows how to be in a bag of tricks, who thinks at a different level, a 4-game of offensive dimensional chess. Mm-hmm. He's got a deep bag of tricks. He also knows what it's like to go for it on fourth down because he's seen his head coach. He understands the pitfalls of it. He understands the benefits of it. He's ready to go. And you hook him up with Caleb Williams and fix that issue of year one, and off you go. I totally think it makes sense. I get it. I hope it works out. But me sitting here saying, hire the offensive guy as the head coach because you won't lose him, and that's the way you go about your business. You're successful that way. Dan Quinn is basically raising his hand saying, what about me here?
Yeah, but
because the Commanders might win it all.
He was already a coach, so...
No, I know that, but, as Pete Carroll right now is being rumored as the next head coach in Vegas, you might sit here and say, because that's the hot rumor I'm seeing all across my television screens right now, that you hire the right CEO to set the standard, and Dan Quinn is from the Pete Carroll world. The right attitude, the right mindset, the right leadership.
That's why I'm so excited about Mike Vrabel.
Right. That's what you do. You hire the guy who can set things up for success and delegate to the right people, have your hand in everything. And that's why, it would make sense to see a CEO head coach being hired. And I hope for the Bears, there is a CEO in the OC of Detroit, now HC of the Chicago Bears. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.